Hey everyone, it's boy Kaz here, and today, this is gonna be fun. I'm talking about the fact that, well, today is June. I still haven't updated my calendar on the wall. June 9th, 2020, and Dovetail Games, who you know I'm a huge fan of, announced today that they are releasing Train Sim World 2. And I'll get to that in a bit. And I just kind of wanted to go over some of the features that they've announced and some of my concerns and my complaints. So, first of all, Evolution in Train Simulation is coming August 6, 2020. So all this really is they just overhauled a few things. They made a few little tweaks. Authentically replicated routes and locomotives. Well, a lot of people sit there and say, yeah, it's great. And then there's a lot of people sit there and say, no, here's where's all these bugs and stuff. And it's just like, Train Sim World, Dovetail, get creative. Personalize your rail journey with 2 brand new, easy-to-use tools. Create your own custom liveries with a livery designer that allows you to craft both simple and complex designs to bring your Train Sim World 2 local liveries to life. Create your own scenario or scenario planners, picking locos and destinations before you jump and take on the rails. Quick Drive your way. Quick Drive was something that was in Train Sim, Railworks, but was never in Train Sim World. And this is now going to be in a paid a second version of the game, a completely different game. They're adding functionality that was promised in the first game that was never delivered. And then a livery designer, basically they're giving you the option to put stickers on locomotives. I'm not sure how much detail there's going to be into that. It might be just you can change a few parameters. It may be a whole painting tool where you can go in and detail the locomotives all you want. Experience a new level of realism. The proprietary Simograph vehicle dynamics engine has evolved, adding realistic adhesion physics for the first time. This is a train simulator. Train simulators should have realistic adhesion physics. They just now are adding those. Feel the slip of wheels in adverse weather. Master moving heavy freight and keep control of your locomotive power on steep inclines. Optimized and upgraded visual fidelity also gives Train Sim World 2 dynamic skies and 4K support. Okay, so the optimized upgrade to visual fidelity and dynamic skies and 4K support, cool. I run an ultra wide and I run pretty high graphics settings on most of my games, and Train Sim World has always looked pretty good, in my opinion. Honestly, in my opinion, Train Sim World is one of the most visually pleasing simulators out there. But that's also my opinion. That's all it has going for it. Its physics has always been garbage. Its gameplay has always been garbage. It's just been something that I've had a really hard time getting into and enjoying. But if the physics are improving, cool. They finally maybe figured out how to 1 + 1 = 2. Immerse yourself in simulation. Get clearer information on instructions, gradients, and speed profiles as you drive. Included a new HUD display, clarity to the onboard safety systems, brake controls, power meter, and accelerometer. A new controller scheme will give great choices on camera and driving modes and allow easier access from external camera mode to enter another vehicle in your consist, all while full physics and simulation are still running. That's actually pretty good, except for this is. I come from the position of don't need a HUD. Learn the gauges. You don't need all the HUDs and stuff. And that's one of the things that always bugged me is they have big things floating in the air that tell you where you're going and HUDs on the side and there that just seem to clutter everything up. Preserve your Train Sim World collection. This basically saying all your DLC for Train Sim World 2020 will carry over to Train Sim World 2, which for me personally doesn't matter because I've never bought any DLC. I still only have 1 route in a game that comes with now 4 routes. I still only have 1. Yeah. So let's actually just dive into some of the FAQ, frequently asked questions. Why Train Sim World 2? Train Sim World 2 is a new simulator for PC, Xbox, and PlayStation 4. It's not. They're just taking the same game and rebranding it and making a few tweaks under the hood. We need to bring Train Sim World forward, and by advancing the engine and involving Simograph, we can add new features and more types of simulation. Cool. That translates to, we need more money. Train Sim World 2 includes high speed and longer freight for the first time, so you can actually run a train that's prototypically length if you're running American trains. And sets our future sights on steam engines, which probably won't see, multiplayer, which we definitely won't see, and more. And I'm gonna get back on that multiplayer here in a minute. New features include a scenario planner, quick drive, which should have been in the original first game. In-game livery designer. You can stick stickers on your locomotives or whatever, which that's not a selling point to me. That really is just them just throwing in gimmicky things, be like, oh, buy it because you can do this, which to me, that means nothing. I can already do that. There are other ways you can get your own skins, your own paint jobs, your own liveries, whatever you want to call them, into the current version of Train Sim World. Adhesion physics, because that is a key thing that should have been in any train simulator day one. They're just now adding that. Preserved collection for add-ons. Again, this is great if you're one of the people who maybe has spent a lot of money and bought a lot of the different DLC and different content. That's great. I'm not sitting there saying you're wrong for doing that. I'm not trying to, whatever, but I'm saying that has little to no effect on me personally because, again, I don't have any DLC. New Dovetail live features including driver logbook, online debriefs, and railfan shots. So basically I can press F12 and my screenshots just go right to their Dovetail live service and everyone can see it. Okay, that's kind of... I can see the appeal to that, of getting to share your screenshots in a more easier method than, print screen or whatever you do on your keyboard, going to your Steam library, finding where the file is saved, uploading it to Reddit or Immersion or Facebook or Discord, having it automatically go to one service, and then you can take it from that service and distribute it however you want. I can understand that. I can see that, but at the same time, that's not a thing that I'm willing to spend money on. That's not a feature that's going to be like, oh, I'm going to buy it because of that. And online debriefs, what is that even? Like, I get that, like, I'm going to drive my train, get to my destination, and it's going to load up a web page and says, here's a web page of how well you did. You can share this web page on Facebook. You could share it with Twitter and all that. Why? Okay. I mean, again, not a selling point, but and not really a feature that I personally am going to utilize. But good on them for at least adding something like that. The driver logbook, that's actually one thing that I think is kind of interesting. They don't go into details on what it is, but I'm going to go off the assumption that it is something similar to what flight sims have, where they log how many hours you've flown in a particular aircraft, and they log how many miles you flew and the different status. So maybe it'll log how many miles and hours do you have in a particular locomotive, so you can just kind of track your personal progress. That I actually, good on them. I like that. I like that they're adding that sort of feature and functionality. Immersion features. Now I read this up. It's further down, way down here. We'll get to that in a minute. But immersion features, it's just upgrades to the HUD, which again, as somebody who only drives American trains, and I'm not trying to sit there and say, oh, British trains are trash. No, I know what I like. I prefer American trains. And because of that, I know enough about the HUD, about the gauges and the throttle lever position and everything, that I can drive my train without any HUD. So, my hope is with immersion features that they're saying, oh, we've made the HUD a little easier to understand, because the current one I feel is a little confusing on some of the icons. They have icons on there that there's no documentation on what these icons do or what these icons mean. And then you have these big floating icons miles away. It's like, I have to drive there? Okay, cool. These two, German High Speed and London Underground, Bakerloo, I hope I'm saying that right, my London Underground rail fans. That one, those two, cool. Great, more routes. Again, and this is just me personally, not a selling point. It may be for some others, and you know what? If I buy it, I'll probably give them a shot and be like, "Oh, cool! This is fun. This is interesting." But realistically, those could have been paid DLC, and this should have all this stuff listed here. The scenario planner, in-game livery designer, adhesion physics, Dovetail live features. That all could have just been in Train Sim 2020. 2021. That could have just been their yearly update. Sandpatch Grade arriving on consoles for the first time and bringing significant gameplay upgrades to PC. That's the only one that actually really matters, because it's the only route that I have. At least matters for me. That's the only route that I have, and I'm excited to see what that is. And they sit there. So let's move down. Why are you not upgrading our? This is worded so weird. Why are you not upgrading our game like Train Sim World 2020? Now that I read it like the fourth time, it finally clicks and makes sense. We need to bring Train Sim World forward. Advance the engine, evolve Simograph, Dovetail's own physics engine that powers Train Sim World, add new features and capabilities for more types of train simulation such as high speed, long freight, and future steam engines, multiplayer, and more. I understand that game development costs money. To make these games, they have to pay workers, salary. They have to buy technology. They have to buy hardware. I understand it costs money, and if you're going to develop a game, you need to finance that game somehow. You can finance it by going to big game developer and saying, "I need $5 million to develop this game." Game publisher. And that publisher will say, "Here's $5 million because we think you're going to sell this game for $10 million. $10 million in sales." And then they can make a profit or loss there. Dovetail Games, because they are their own developer and their own producer, they're kind of they're making the game, and they're also distributing the game through Steam and through other sites. They have to still, keep the lights on at the office and pay their workers and everything. So I understand that they need to make new games to, generate revenue. However, because they have so much DLC, and that's one of the things that they do, is they put out a new DLC like every few months. There's a new DLC, paid DLC for one of the games. I don't understand why they couldn't have just said, "Oh, it's going to be a $10 upgrade from 2020 to 2021," which they've done in the past. They have done in the past in Railworks. I believe it was Railworks 2018 to 2019. That update was a paid update, and I know it is. I just don't have it on hand exactly when it was, but I have on my Steam page, my Steam records, that paid update, like in my transactions. And then they continue to make paid DLC. It just, for me, these few little things that they're doing, I don't feel like warrant a full new game. What is Adhesion feature? Adhesion physics brings wheel slip, wheel slide to Train Sim World 2. So wheel slip is, you put power onto the locomotive, the wheels start spinning, but the train doesn't move. The wheels are slipping. Here's the rail, the wheel is doing this. Wheel slide is, you apply brakes because you want to stop, and the wheels slide. They're not spinning, but the train is still moving. Why that wasn't already in the game, I do not know. What routes and locos are in Train Sim World 2? Experience German high speed for the first time with the Kulun? I'm not even going to try pronouncing that. Route, driving the DB-BR406 Ice 3 and the DB-BR442 Tailnet 2. Discover the world-famous London Underground with the classic 1972 Mark II stock on the Bakerloo line, a route requested by a huge number of players. Enjoy the epic feat of engineering on powerful haulers like the AC 44000 CW, or 4400 CW, GP38-2, and SD40-2 on Sandpatch Grade. Okay, so again, as an American, and a definite heavy leaning on American routes, cool. A route I already have is going to be in the game. 2 new routes that I can experience and, play around with and maybe have some fun on. Neat. But honestly, I think these all could have just been $20 whatever they normally charge DLC routes. What is the livery designer? A new in-game tool available on all platforms allows you to personalize your Train Sim World 2 logos and create your very own custom liveries. Easy to use, utilizing a mixture of shapes and layers, it will allow you to craft both simple and complex designs to bring your own liveries to life within your Train Sim World 2 game. What I'm reading here is something very similar to what the Forza Motorsport series of racing games on Xbox, what they have, where you basically get a sticker that is a predefined size, and you can change the shape and skew and color. And from these different shape stickers, you can lay them out and color them and make really, really complicated patterns and imagery. And I've seen people do straight up, artwork of actual people that looks like it was done in Photoshop, but it's nothing but circles and ovals and squares and triangles all colored and shaped and skewed and stuff. So I think that's what the livery designer is going to be. I don't think it's going to be like opening up Photoshop. I think it's going to be, you're going to have the car, the locomotive, you're going to click on the side view, and you're going to be able to position stickers and change their size and properties until you can make it exactly how you want it. And you'll probably be able to change the base color of the locomotive. What is a scenario planner? A new in-game tool available on all platforms, giving you the ability to create your own scenario, customize logos and destinations, and then jump into driving. Again, it's just quick drive that if you've played it in Train Simulator, Railworks, they're just finally bringing it over to TSW. I don't know why. Again, I do not know why it was not already in the game. What do we mean by immersion? The new immersion features of Train Sim World 2 include clearer information on instructions, progression, gradient, and speed profiles as you drive. Okay, so an easier to read HUD, or an easier to read in-game instructions of some sort. New HUD displays, clarity to the onboard safety systems, brake controls, power meter, and accelerometer. This I'm reading as they're changing up what the HUD looks like, make it easier for you to understand what's going on with your locomotive. If you're someone who, unlike me and a lot of other people, maybe aren't 100% familiar with all the gauges inside of a locomotive, you can look at the HUD and be like, oh, I have a better idea of what my train is doing. Cool. Again, not something I think is worth a full new game. And I'm not sitting there saying it's not worth buying a new game. I think it's not something worth them making a new game for. A new immersion controller scheme designed to simplify common functions and make more readily accessible, as well as removing distracting pop-up menus in both the camera and driving modes. Basically, they're making it easier for if you're a console player or someone who uses an Xbox controller to just in a probably a more intuitive HUD, or a more intuitive controller scheme. The current one were like this, like in my mind, throttle, brake, right? But no, it's throttle, brake. Like the current console layout is wrong or is weird, and I don't actually play with the controller. I just have this controller sitting on my desk because I like this controller. It's my Halo 3 controller because I love Halo, and it sits on my desk as a nice display piece. And I should actually probably see if I can't get some batteries and get it hooked up to my computer and try using that something. Anyways, easy access to external camera mode and other vehicle in your consist. Just basically being able to jump between locomotives, especially if you're driving like British or German or other European locomotives or trains where they have a cab at either end. You can usually just switch to either end. Streamlined game start, automatically taking you directly to the next stage of your last service or scenario. This is something that's always bugged me about the general gameplay of Train Sim, is it plays very linearly, and I talked about this in another video of dynamic gameplay versus linear gameplay. But it's very much like Call of Duty, where you load up a level, you play through the level, you reach the objective, you get a gold star, you move on to the next one. And all this streamlined game start basically is once you end one scenario, it sounds like it's going to give you the option to just jump right into the next step of that scenario. So still no dynamic gameplay. And I'm going to skip over a lot of this stuff because it's all pretty much, what is preserved collection system, copying over, or allowing you to bring over your old DLC. You won't be able to, will my progress and save game carry over? No, which is understandable. Why no steamers? They just haven't developed it yet. Large update we need to do before we can get steam engines right. Basically, they're saying we don't know what we're doing. Here's where this is going to get interesting, because I have tabs open. Okay, I have tabs open that we're going to cover here in a minute. Where is multiplayer? We want to bring multiplayer to Train Sim World, and we now have a design that we think will give a great social experience. It's been crucial to design based on the experience of the mode, bring the right roles and communication to our online experience. Multiplayer is not part of Train Sim World 2, but it's in our future roadmap. It's not part of Train Sim World 2, but it's on our future roadmap. I want to take a quick switch over to a video that was... This was the video that I watched that made me buy Train Sim World in the first place. This video was posted on September 2nd, 2016. Dovetail Games currently has it, or Train Simulator currently has it as unlisted, okay? Which means unless you have a link to it, you can't find it. I have a link to it. I also have a full copy of the video that I just saved myself. But let's just take a quick watch of this video.
Welcome to Marseille Station.
Thank you very much, Adam. Pleasure to be here.
Now, a real burning question from the gamer 567 in our community is, will there be multiplayer?
There absolutely will be multiplayer in Train Sim World, absolutely. I'm really excited to deliver multiplayer in Train Simulator for some time. And with the way that we've been able to build Train Sim World, we can do that.
So another burning...
So what you just heard was Matt Pedalston, senior producer on Train Sim World, say, back in 2016, when asked, will there be multiplayer? His exact response was, and as you saw, there will absolutely be multiplayer in Train Sim World. We've been really excited to deliver multiplayer in Train Simulator for some time, and with the way we've been able to build Train Sim World, we can do that. That was Train Sim World back in 2016. Now let's jump to this image right here. Where's my mouse pointer? There's my mouse pointer. Problem with having triple monitors, I lose my mouse pointer all the time. Let's just zoom in. This was posted on the Dovetail, not on Dovetail, this was posted on Steam by DTG Daniel, who's listed as a developer, on August 7th, 2019. This is a screenshot that I took, but I can actually pull up the original post. As far as I'm aware, hi guys, as far as I'm aware, multiplayer was never promised. It was noted as something we wanted to possibly add in the future, but it's never been promised, and a date has never been confirmed. The original posting of this was on a post regarding when will multiplayer be released, because the person who originally said it said, hey, you guys promised it, and Dovetail Games Daniel said, no, we never promised that. This is just really flippy-floppy information on one thing. And again, I've said this. I know I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. I know multiplayer isn't exactly something that everyone wants. It's from my experience, it's a clear divide down the middle of half of everybody wants multiplayer and the other half of everybody doesn't want multiplayer. It's a functionality that, if added, would be optional. You would not have to play multiplayer, but it would be there if you wanted to. And, if you find a good group of people, you get a couple of your friends together, I think multiplayer could actually be really fun. And the fact that you have Matt Pedalston saying, it'll absolutely be there, and then you have Daniel saying, we never said that, is really contradictory and just makes me not trust this developer who, over the course of, the 10 years that I have been following, 10, 15 years, that I have been following Train Sim, from Railworks to Train Sim World to now Train Sim 2, that I've been following these guys, not as a hardcore fan or anything, but just as somebody who's keeping my eyes on it. It's just another one of those things that goes, I don't want to spend money on this. I do not trust these developers. So, and I'm not going to do that last one because that's just a funny meme. So, oh, and lastly, the last thing I want to cover here is, will Track IR and Raildriver support on PC? Not at launch. However, we're already working to bring Track IR and our Raildriver PC support to Train Sim World. For those of you unfamiliar, let me grab it here. This is a Raildriver. Now, you can Google it. They're expensive. They're fun. This is a proprietary controller. Well, not really proprietary, but a peripheral for train simulation. The plugs into the computer, and it gives you general controls that you would have in a train sim. Or if you run an actual locomotive, it's basically desktop controls. It's based off of, I believe it's based off of the Dash 9's desktop cab controls. Almost every train sim out on the market supports this in some way or form, some shape, way, form, or function. Open rails. If you press this button right, I think it's this button right here, just turns on rail driver support in Open Rails, which is a free train simulator. Trains. It's a little convoluted, a little bit of a workaround, but you can get this to work in pretty much any version of Trains. I think it works in Tane, I can't remember, but I do know it works in Trains 19. It's a little finicky, but it does work. Run 8. Run 8 right out of the box, 100% supports rail driver. Nothing train sim related, nothing from Dovetail Games supports the rail driver. And I know what you're all going to sit there and say right now. You're all like, but Kaz, look here, we went to the rail driver website and it says it does. It doesn't. What you're doing is you're using a third-party program provided by PI Engineering that turns the rail driver just into an advanced keyboard. So you're not actually running the rail driver, you're running a second keyboard. So it's not true rail driver support. Track IR. Now, this is something that some people may not be familiar with, so I'm going to explain what that is. It's poor man's VR. What Track IR is it's a very simple headset. You have a web camera, usually mounted on top of your computer screen, or somewhere on your desk facing front. So this camera would not work. And you have a LED somewhere on your head or hat, either 1 or 2, up to 3. You can have more. And what the camera does is it tracks where that LED is. And so if you lean your head a little this way or this way, the camera will automatically pan left or right. If you look up or down a little bit, the camera will move up or down. It's very much the equivalent of wearing a VR headset and being able to fully look around, but you have limited motion like this, and you get the same motion as this. So basically, this motion becomes this in-game, which is a really nice immersion feature, especially if you're playing like racing games or flying games. You're racing a car and you want to check over there, and you just turn your head a little bit and your whole camera pans and looks to the left. That's great. And it's be great for train sims too, because you could be driving your train, and if you got Track IR turned on and you just lean a little bit like this and the camera suddenly looks, you can better see that signal coming up on your left or your right, whichever side it happens to be on. You know. Cool. So bringing that into a train sim, I think would be great. VR in train sims, I think would be super awesome. And before anyone sits there and says, have you checked out Derail Valley? Yes, I have. And I play it every so often, and I think it's okay. I feel like the Derail Valley's lack of rail driver support kind of makes it a little confusing or a little unintuitive for me. And I have some controller issues with it that I'm still working on, but that gives me super high hope that VR in any other train sim would be super awesome. And again, I know VR isn't for everybody. I'm just voicing my opinions. So all in all, I think that this announcement of Train Sim World 2, it has some promising features, but I really don't feel like it warrants a whole nother game. Because this is just going to add more support that they have to do. Because now what happens if I have a tech support issue and I email, well, I'm having a problem with Train Sim World. Was it Train Sim World 1 or Train Sim World 2? You know, it's like, I feel like it's more back-end work on them. They could have just said, we're going to make these updates and make it some variation of an update to the existing Train Sim World platform instead of just making a whole new one. And when I say making a whole new one, they just took the existing Train Sim platform, added some function, and made it a full new game, which to me is just kind of dumb. But this has been running a little long. I'm going to say, you know what? We're done. I'm going to be streaming some Train Sim World sometime this week. Link to my Twitch in the description below. I also stream Run 8 on Fridays. Wednesdays is iRacing. And Sundays is also iRacing. So yeah, that's going to be it for this. I'm also been talking for a half hour, and this was not supposed to be this long of a video. Anyways, I will catch you guys later. I'm out.